Hi, Patrick here. Have Cheetah well view, and I'm trying to catch up here. I had a case of gout, which put me on my ass for 3 or 4 days, and so I am rapidly trying to catch up with everything I'm behind. And one of that is Dollar Tree Theater. So welcome to Dollar Tree Theater. Dollar Tree Theater is a concept that was created by our good friend Hobbs from Hobbs Horror, and in it we various people in the community we each find movies that we get at Dollar Tree or anywhere else that's underneath $1.25. $1.25. So if you find anything $1.25 or less, and that includes gifts that count, you can do Dollar Tree Theater. Uh, and the movie that we'll be talking about today is one that you guys voted for. You guys voted for me to watch and review 2014's Dying of the Light. Now, I got this movie here for $1 at the Family Video. Family Video is now closed. So it's our last movie chain, and it closed. It was a victim of the pandemic. But they used to have fantastic sales, 10 for 10 sales. You go in there and you basically buy, you can get 10 movies for $10. So I picked this up for $1. So this is 2014's Dying of the Light. Stars Nicolas Cage, Irene Jacobs, the late Anton Yelchin, which we'll talk about that a little bit, Alexander Kareem, and a whole bunch. One other actor I should mention, Claudius Peters, is in this movie. So the plot of the movie, this is written and directed by a critically acclaimed and award-winning writer-director, Paul Schrader. Now, Paul Schrader has done a ton of movies, ton of great movies. Some of you might recognize some of the movies that he's done, and he's also done theater. So some of the movies that he's done, like First Reformed, with that star Ethan Hawke, that's recent. That's pretty recent, 2017. In 2021, he did a movie called The Card Counter, which I have, which will be a Dollar Tree Theater candidate sometime soon, since I got that at the library, and that starred Oscar Isaac and Tiffany Haddish. That's actually supposed to be really, really quite good. He's got another movie coming out really soon called Master Gardener, which is a crime thriller starring Sigourney Weaver and Joel Edgerton. So, and he has a ton of one movie he did called Dog Eat Dog that was excellent. But we'll talk a little bit about Paul Schrader here in a minute, because this movie has an interesting history. So, this movie, like I said, has Nicolas Cage playing a CIA officer named Evan Lake. Evan Lake is working at Langley, and we see him when the movie opens up. We see him giving a welcoming speech to the new potential recruits coming in, and every year he's been doing that for the last 6 years. And we find out that he is where he used to be a field officer. He is now riding a desk. He was captured and severely beaten 22 years before that by a ex-freedom fighter named Banir. Banir wanted. He thought there was a double agent in his organization, and he wanted Nicolas Cage to give him the name. And in doing so, he gave him a severe beating, up including around the head, and he seems to have escaped. Nicolas Cage's character, Evan Lake, thinks that he seems to have escaped when Evan Lake was rescued. But he's been riding a desk, and we find out that he's been going around with different doctors, and he finds out that he is suffering from a form of Alzheimer's, FTD. It's a more progressive and aggressive form of dementia, and it's starting to happen to him more and more. And he wants to go out in the field, but there's just no way he's going to be able to do that. Well, he's got a little protege named Milt. Milt's sort of like he hangs out with Evan, and and they work the desks together and whatnot, and Milt finds out that maybe, just maybe, Banir is still alive. Uh, they've been tracking him through his medicines. He has a genetic illness that requires experimental treatments, and it looks like they've got a hold of him. They got a hold of a doctor who's been treating him with the compounds that they have on a watch list. So whenever in traffic going around between assets, between stations, if they gets triggered, anything gets triggered, it goes back to Milt, and then Milt, he will investigate it, and that's what happens. He finds out that the medicine that he's been looking for has popped up, and that could be a sign of Banir. So Nicolas Cage, he wants to go ahead and go after Banir. It's been 22 years. And so he wants to be getting back in the field, and so he goes to his boss, the director, and he says, "Listen, I want to put together a task force to go after this guy, bring him to trial." And the director says, the guy basically is dying too. He's dying. He ain't going nowhere. But of course, Nicolas Cage's character, Evan Lake, he doesn't see it that way. He feels like we should bring him in regardless. And so he's denied that, and then later on he's brought back in, and he finds out that even though he's been very careful, the agency has found out about his condition, and they're not going to do anything about Banir. They're going to go ahead and they want to retire Evan gracefully with dignity, and of course one of the conditions of his illness is that he sometimes exhibits unprovoked behavior. And we see that here now. Due to his frustration, he goes way overboard, and he berates the director of the CIA so bad that he loses his job. They know that it's not necessarily him, but still you can't have a man talk like that to the director of the CIA. So they go ahead and they escort him out. But Milt's been watching out for him, and he comes over and he tells him, he says, "Listen, I'm willing to go with you. I'm willing to hang, to help you find this guy. But you got to be honest with me. What's going on?" And so Evan tells Milt tells Milt what's happening. But they decide to go ahead and risk it anyway, and they're going to make one last effort to go to Romania to see if we can track down the doctor, and then go down to Kenya to see if we can find out where Banir's at. So they have a contact in Romania, an ex-lover of Evan Lake's, who helps them, but they're racing time. They're racing times on both sides because basically both men are dying. One man has to be dying a little bit faster than the other, but they're both dying. And it's a dynamic story in the sense that two people who aren't going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. They should just let it alone, but they're headlong toward a conclusion that seems to be fated, and that is Evan Lake is going to meet Banir one last time. All right, so this movie has an interesting history. I really like the idea of the story. The story it's sad. It's sad. It's a sad story. I mean, you got two people, like I said, you got two men on the opposite sides of the spectrum. One's going to be dying probably within between 1 to 3 years, and the other one is probably within a matter of months. He can't stay alive without the medicines. And they've tried telling him, Evan Lake, that, like, he's saying that he's dying, he's not going to be doing anything. You've done your part. But I think part of it is because Evan Lake also knows too that Benier is responsible for it because of the severe beating that he took at his hands 22 years before. It basically caused this damage to his brain now. So Benier has ineffectively killed him. He's killed Evan Lake. So Evan Lake, I think he really wants a little bit more. It's more of a payback than it is a sense of justice. Like I'm going to bring him in and put him on trial. Bring who on trial? The man's he's dead. He's dying. You know, yeah. So and Evan Lake knows that he's racing against time because the more he's stressed, it seems like the more he gets stressed, the faster the progression of this illness happens. His dementia flares up more often or not. So we see this through the movie, different things. He lights up a smoke at in a restaurant in Romania, and when they tell him to put it out, he flares up. His temper flares up, and and he doesn't help himself either by drinking a lot. That really, that's not a good thing. Alcohol plus a case of dementia doesn't really work too well together. Milt tries to hang out with them and tries to help guides them, and they come up with an idea to pose as the doctor to give Evan Lake the medicine and have him go as the doctor that usually treats Benier. They've never seen each other face to face, so all Benier has been doing is sending him 10,000 euros a month for the medicine, but this time the doctor wants to come out and treat him. So that's a high risk maneuver considering the Evans condition. Now here's the part about the movie. The thing that's about the movie is that Paul Schrader wrote and directed it, and then he turns this movie in, and the Grindstone, who is the producer of Red Granite, also a production company, they took the movie away from him. They took the movie away from Paul Schrader, and they cut, re-edited, and scored it totally against his wishes. This is not his movie. What you're watching here is not the movie that he made, nor what he's going to put out. They did it. They took it away, and they cut it, and they put it out there, and of course, he can't say anything about that other than, they took it away, but he's not going to, while he can't talk anything against it, against the producers or anything else like that, he doesn't have to do anything to promote it. And the cast aligned with Paul Schrader, and they did nothing to promote this movie. This movie was not promoted. They all stood together and they said, nope, not going to do that. So, it was interesting because I don't know what was missing in this movie. I thought the story went okay. Nicolas Cage gave a good performance. Until I was, but I guess the music and the photography, and there's a lot of other things that just weren't in the movie. And Paul Schrader actually was able to get his cut from his movie from various DVDs. He was able to form his own movie that he remembered making, and he released it called Dark. There is a director's edition of this movie out. It just hasn't been released yet. And there's also one of the interesting things in this movie, which we didn't know either, but there's also narration in this movie, and it was done by Ethan Hawke. Now, whether that got cut out, which probably did, or added afterwards, probably was edited out. But Ethan Hawke had narration in this movie. Did I like this movie? Yes. Yeah, I liked it. I'd like to see the director's cut. Paul Schrader's, he comes up with some terrific stories. His movies are really good. And he and Nicolas Cage have actually worked together before on a few films. I liked it. I had a nice international flavor to it. The bad guy was a good bad guy. He was, you wanted to see him, It was interesting, though, was the fact that he's a bad guy, but we're seeing him suffer. And you really wish you could go up to Evan Lake and sit there and say, hey, relax. He ain't going nowhere. I mean, he's just not. You know, and you know, he's got a lot less life to live than you do. So you should go enjoy whatever time you have left. Nicolas Cage character says, you know, he wants to leave a legacy. He wants to leave something that he been remembered for. Well, we know that's not right, and we know that's not true. Is because that Evan Lake is a highly decorated officer. In fact, they read off some of the things that he has won, and yeah, he's going to be a legend. So he doesn't need Premier's death to solidify any legacy. He wants revenge. This is basically a movie of revenge. You know, he wants to send this guy out before he goes, and that's really what it comes down to. And of course, Anton Yelchin, he played Milton. You know, every time we talk about a movie with him in it, it's tragic because he died. He died a couple years later, 2016. He died 2 years later. His own Jeep rolled over and killed him. That was a tremendous loss to the acting community, because he was going to be a big star. He was already well on his way. I have a lot of his movies, including a beautiful IFC movie called 5-7, which is absolutely beautiful. So he's sorely missed. The rest of the cast also is very good. Irene Jacob, Alexander Karim, who played Banir, he wasn't just a one-note pony, one-trick pony. His Banir had a lot of depth to him. He was a former freedom fighter who was working with the Allies, with the U.S., and then he became disillusioned. And he started to fight on the other side. Happens a lot more than you think. So he wasn't necessarily just a one note, bad guy. He's an Arab, so he's a bad. No, he had depth. He had character. You sort of wish that they really would have had a ballsy ending. Would have been having them facing off with each other and sharing a drink and then going their separate ways. That would have been an interesting ending to me. Both of them were dying. Both of them, even though Nicolas Cage, even though Evan Lake got beat to silly, I don't know why, but I think having them sit, facing off against each other, having a shared drink and then going away, I don't know why, but that ending really interests me. All right, so that's the end for this Dollar Tree Theater. I know I spent a lot of time on this movie, but I really liked it a lot, and I think you should too. You can get this at most secondary markets, eBay, Amazon, what have you. Yep. So if you're new to the channel, please consider giving us a sub. Let us know what Anton Yelchin or Nicolas Cage movie are your favorites. Drop them down in the comments down below. We'll talk about it. If you leave a comment, we'll talk about which actor you like better and which movie you liked them in best. For me, Anton Yelchin, my favorite thing I saw him in was 5-7. I know a lot of people think Green Room, but I'm going with 5-7. Nicolas Cage, well, I mean, where do you even start with him, right? He's done so many great things. The Rock, Con Air, Ghost Rider, what have you. Yeah, drop a comment down below. Hit the notification bell, let you know what we're doing next. And we will talk at you soon. Next week. The movies that are up for next week are Gandala, Rise of a Hero, of course, the mighty Cheetah's Choice. We went back to Nicolas Cage and Primal, and this one has Kevin Durant in it. Hell yeah! And then last year, I got a birthday present from Splash with Ariel, and she sent me a copy of Night of the Creeps for my birthday. So I decided to throw that into the mix, and let's see if we're gonna watch this next week. Which, as I'm speaking, this is actually leading. This is beating Primal. So next week I'll be here talking about Night of the Creeps, I think. All right, thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting the channel. I appreciate you all. We will talk at you soon. Eight Questions With returns tomorrow night with Lorenzo Leonard and Tally Shire, and we will be talking about American Hun Story. Talk to you soon. Peace.